Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of the Courageous Leadership Academy Live. I'm your host, Dr. Kelly Waltman. And if you're new to this series, we talk about all things leadership, business ownership, really just helping you be a more courageous leader and hopefully just an all-around better human being. And you'll have to bear with me today. I was just telling our guest backstage that I had a migraine hit about 10 minutes ago, so I'm going to do my best to power through and make sense and be coherent today. But if I'm a little off, you know why. But you're still in for a treat today because our guest today is Brian Biro. And he is known as America's breakthrough coach. He's delivered over 1,800 presentations around the world over the last 30 years, such an impressive number. He's the author of 15 books, including the bestseller Beyond Success and his brand new book, The ROI of Kindness, which is just an awesome read. In addition to being such a profound author, he was rated #1 from over 40 speakers at 4 consecutive Inc. magazine international conferences. And he was recently honored as one of the top 10 interactive keynote speakers in North America and one of the top 60 motivational speakers in the world. So again, we are in for such a treat today. And I'm so excited to welcome Brian Biro into the broadcast. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, Kelly, you are a trooper going forward with a migraine. No one would know unless you told me. They never would have known. That is true class. It's an honor to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, as I continue to go through, I'll make sense as we're talking. But if not, I know you can carry us through. We're in good hands, so we'll rely on you. Oh, goodness. So I like to offer up to my guests, is there anything else that you'd like to share by way of an introduction? Anything else you'd like to let our viewers know?
Only that I always sign all of my emails with my real priorities, and they say Brian Biro, husband, father, grandfather, speaker, author. So all that stuff is nice, but what matters most to me is family.
I love that so much. Yes, I've noticed that in your email signature, and it warms my heart every time. I love that so much.
Thanks.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in the intro, you're known as the breakthrough coach, and you've written a bunch of books and you've done all this speaking and teaching and team building. So talk to us about your background. What in your background prepared you to do all of this amazing work?
Well, I've had a great time, Kelly. I love people. I think that's where it started from the time that I can remember. I've really had this inner intuition that every person has more in them than they think, that there aren't any overachievers. And so I've had 3 really rocking careers. My first career, I was a U.S. swimming coach. I coached swimming in the summers to put myself through Stanford. That and mega loans, which I really didn't love, but I loved coaching. And I had a great run as a coach. I realized you don't really coach swimming, you coach people. So it was a great opportunity to help people, young people, really go after their dreams and their goals, and had a wonderful experience as a coach. My team became the largest team in America at that time, private team. 44 of my kids got full college scholarships, but I had no life. And so my next step was so completely focused strictly on my career. I'm probably the only guy, Kelly, who went to graduate school to get a life instead of a job. And I did. I ended up finding, my wife and I met during my graduate years, and my second career was my corporate career. Ended up becoming a vice president, first of a very large transportation company, and then an international training company. And it was doing that transportation company that really was the springboard to what I do now, because as an organization, a very, very long-term company, a very big company, we were siloed. We were separated. Operations hated sales. Sales hated operations. They just both hated the home office a little bit more. And that just did not work for me. So That's where I started to do team building work in my own company and traveled to all of our locations, developed my first real seminar, and at the peak of a massive turnaround, because you turn around from the inside, not the outside. After a massive turnaround, I said to my wife, Carol, I said, we're doing great. Let's quit. I need to go do this. And so my third career has been, I spent the last 30 plus years doing this work I love as a speaker and an author. And as long as I'm standing, I'll keep doing it, because it's really is what I'm put on earth to do. So it's really and it's always been the same, that I'm looking to bring out the true potential in each person, to help each person know who they really are, to see themselves with new eyes.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I love that so much. I love that you just found this thing that just sparked so much in you, just like joy and energy and passion, and that you just said, you know what, I'm going to go all in and embrace this. Um, and then you can use that and share that with other people to help them find that same thing and accomplish great things. And I love that so much because I think we tend to shortchange ourselves, what we're capable of and our potential. And so that's fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah. When you're full of purpose, you're full of life. I joke that when I'm on stage, I'm 25 years old. I get off stage and sometimes I'm still 66, but on stage, I am 25. And that is the power of purpose. When you do what you love, and you do it for the right motivations, not for what you can get, but for how good it feels to give.
Yeah.
You truly have an endless source of energy. So thanks for recognizing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in thinking about people being really able to do more than they sometimes think, a theme that relates to that is this idea that you talk about that we're all leaders. Which is contrary to what a lot of people think. A lot of people think, oh, the leaders are the few, the followers are the many. We don't all have the capacity to be leaders. So, talk more about why you believe and why you talk about us all having that leadership within us.
Well, I love that because that is a starting place to see yourself differently. Many of us have grown up thinking that, hey, I'm a follower, or I'll never be a leader, or I can never get up in front of a group of people. But it starts, Kelly, with a very simple question. What is leadership? And when you get down to it, leadership is nothing more than making decisions and acting upon them. How do you show up every day? Huge part of leadership.
Yeah.
How do you deal with, as we've all dealt with over the last year and a half, with immense change and challenge and uncertainty? Another big part of your leadership, probably most important of all, no matter what industry you're in, what field you're in, what career you have, what kind of impact do you have on people? Just
Yeah.
you lift them up immediately just by who you are, by the energy that you're radiating. So long before you had the job that you're in right now, you were the CEO of your own life. All right. And so to understand that you really are a leader, and then in an organization, every time I talk to a CEO, and I talk to a lot of them, when I make this simple statement, I said, whoever is in contact with your customer or your prospect from your organization, whether it's the newest employee, the receptionist, the custodian who's cleaning up in later on, and whoever it happens to be, to that individual who is your business, that customer, that client, that person is your company. So you are the leader. So when you come from that position of understanding that you are a leader, and then let's define it further and go into what is future ready leadership look like today? How do you become what I call a breakthrough leader? But it starts with that foundation of understanding that you really already are. You are a self-leader. All right. You are the CEO of your own life.
Yeah. I love that. I talk with a lot of people, in the work I do about communication and feedback, and I'll hear often from people who may be in a formal, leadership titled position, a supervisory capacity, maybe not, and they say, well, what can I do? I don't feel like I can influence or control. I say, well, start within your sphere of influence. And maybe that's just you. Maybe that is your sphere of influence is yourself. But wherever you have your sphere of influence, start there and then watch the ripple effects go from there. And so I think that's a great similarity, the idea, starting with yourself, and being the CEO and leader of your own life and taking that ownership, and that agency of your own life. I think that's gold. That's great.
And you bring up a great point. Your sphere of influence makes you understand that you have influence. You
Yes.
can't have a sphere of influence if you're not, and you are influencing.
Right.
You are always influencing the people around you. I believe that every one of us shares the same foundational job. We're all teachers.
Yeah.
We're teaching the people who we have influence on, whether it's immense influence, like we hopefully have on our children when they're small, or what we think is tiny influence just from some chance meeting. But every time that we communicate with a person, we have some measure of influence. And if that's the case, then guess what? We are leaders in that moment because we're teachers. We're teaching others how at least one way to deal with whatever is coming at us is. So I think that's a really great way to put it. You can't have a sphere of influence unless you have some influence.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I love that you say that, because I've never thought about it in that way. Taking that extension from there, that's the implication, that if you have a sphere of influence, then you have influence. And a lot of people, I think, don't feel like they do. And so really embracing that as a concept is really powerful. So yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So you mentioned in there the concept of breakthrough leadership. Talk to us more about that concept of what that means, and how we can apply that.
I've been working on this for 45 years, Kelly, through my 3 careers. This concept that I call breakthrough leadership, because that's what we want. We want to break through. We want to break through from fear to love and faith. That's the foundational breakthrough of all. And breakthrough leadership is based upon that foundational starting place that, hey, I am a leader. I have some influence. And then it focuses on controlling your controllables. When you're controlling your controllables, you feel a sense of momentum. You start to build confidence. It's when we try to control things that we don't control, trying to control other people, trying to control things that are outside of our ability to control. That's when we feel frustrated, scared, we feel overwhelmed, we feel lost. So breakthrough leadership is really zeroing in on focus on 3 foundational, what I call controllables. And these are, and another name for controllables, of one that makes it even easier to understand, is choices. Many people who don't think they're leaders, many people who don't think they make a difference, forget that they have choices. I mean, we really only, when you get down to it, you only have one thing that's not your choice, and that is to die. And some people think you have a choice about that one now, but everything else is a matter of choice.
Right.
And there are consequences to choices, but
Yes.
then you have a choice of how you respond to those consequences. So the 3 controllables of breakthrough leadership. And here's the really important distinction. Many of us have been conditioned to focus on the result. Now, we want results, but the way you really create the results you want to create are by focusing on what you put in, by what you control. And that's why the breakthrough leadership is about focusing on these 3 areas of choice, of control, uncontrollables. The first is to shape your future. I often ask in my programs, if I was to ask you what is the largest hotel company in the world today, I ask, what do you think? And I hear Marriott, I hear Hilton. It's Airbnb, right? And they weren't here 12 years ago. Ask this question, everybody watching this podcast. What's the largest private transportation company in the world? I know you know, because you probably used it last week, Uber.
Yep.
They weren't here 12 years ago. If you wait for the future will not be yours. You have to choose what you focus on. So shaping your future is understanding 2 concepts of vision, because all breakthroughs start with vision. That's not enough, but it's a focus. The first is, what you focus on is what you create. Yes. Not what you focus on, what you get, because until you put yourself in, until you add what I call PR, personal responsibility, you get Zippo. But once you get in the game, then what you focus on is what you create.
Yes.
And so then here's a big question to everyone. What are you focusing on? How many of us focus more on worrying about what will go wrong than envisioning what will go right?
Right.
How many of us focus more on our weaknesses than on our strengths?
Yeah.
Either way, what you focus on is what you create. So the starting place in controlling that controllable called shaping the future is, as you start to drift towards that worry, towards what you don't want, to begin to condition yourself to focus on what you do want to create. So that's the first one. The second one, relating to shaping the future, I'll ask everyone listening to, and you probably know the answer to this one, but now I'm going to ask you a silly question. It's another vision question, because shaping the future is about vision. But wherever you are, answer out loud just for the fun of it. What color, I'll ask a color question. What color is a yield sign? Now, I've asked close to 1 million people that question, and 99.9% of the people who have answered that question say yellow. Well, yield signs are red and white. They're upside down triangles. They're triangles with red on the outside, red letters against a white background. And I always get the same, what?
Yeah.
Now, here's the question. Why don't we see them? Right. We see thousands of them. In the same way we see our family every day. We see our job every day. We see ourselves every day. So we've seen thousands of yield signs and haven't seen one of them for what's right smack in front of us. Why? Because the second key to shaping your future explains a truth that can set you free once you see it. And that is that almost everyone I know rarely uses their vision to see. What we use instead is our memory and our conditioning. And whenever you use your memory to see, you don't see what is, you see what was.
Right.
And the second you lock onto what was, guess what you block out? What is and what could be. Now that's really good for all, I hope everybody will have as much fun driving as I do, because every time I see a yield sign, I start cracking up. I'm thinking, what else am I missing? But where this matters to no longer depend upon your memory to see is with people. Change the way you look at people. The people you look at change. Change the way you see yourself. The self you see will change.
Right.
So, I learned this in a really fun way with my oldest daughter. When she went off to college, her name is Kelsey. Oh my gosh, we missed her so much. But when she came home the very first time from college for Thanksgiving holiday, I finally had this massive vision breakthrough. I finally realized that though I love her completely, I've been staring at her for years like she was an old yellow yield sign. I've been looking at her like she was still my little 10-year-old.
Right.
Hey, she'd been driving her own car for 2.5 years. Every morning she was waking up hundreds of miles away, deciding completely for herself what she was going to do with the greatest gift of all called today. I'll never forget, she walked in the door that Thanksgiving, a smile the size of North Carolina, immediately announced to her mom and I that she had already applied for, already been accepted to go do a very special service program in Ghana, in Africa.
Wow.
Because Kelsey wants to make the world better. And I looked at my daughter that day, Kelly, maybe for the very first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got it. I finally understood that every time I looked at her as if she were an old yellow yield sign, what happened to our relationship? It went backwards until I looked at the wisdom, the maturity, the powerful young woman that was right in front of me. Yeah. So most of all, when it comes to breaking through it in terms of shaping your future, what you focus on is what you create, and stop using your memory to see. Change the way you look at people, the people you look at change. And breakthrough leadership is about changing the way you see yourself, because then the self you see will change.
Yeah. That's so powerful.
And that's only the first controllable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and yeah, I love, circling back to the beginning when you said that about choice. And as you're describing each of those things, like you said, they are choices. We're choosing our perspective. We're making a choice each day, each moment, each time we interact with people and we think about ourselves, the story that we're going to tell ourselves, either about ourselves or about these other people. We're choosing that story and that narrative. And so, yeah, that is really powerful, because I think sometimes we get stuck in this trap of thinking we don't have a choice. But we always have a choice. Like you said, we may not like the consequences of a choice, but we always have a choice. And particularly,
we don't have a choice about what happens, but we have a choice about how we respond to what happens.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah.
In fact, that really leads so strongly into the second area, the second controllable, because it's one that many people don't think they have a choice about. And that is called, I call it energize and engage in your team, but it's about energy.
Yeah.
Many people think about their energy in almost exactly the way they think about the weather. It's kind of like, gee, I hope the weather's great for our trip to the beach this summer. Hope the weather is not too hot for when we go out for that hike. Isn't that the way some of us think about our energy? Man, I hope I have enough energy to make it through this show.
Right.
Hope I have enough energy to make it through this week.
Right.
But your energy is not like the weather. It's a matter of choice.
Right. Yeah.
And when you understand that, then you understand the key to, because why is energy so important? And there's two foundational reasons. The first, it's why it's so important to your career, to your family, to your health. The first reason why energy is so important is about my favorite word. What would be a day in our life, Kelly, without another acronym? All right. And so the first reason why energy is so crucial to take charge of, to control that controllable, is all about the WOO, which is called the woo, which incidentally, really fun to say. And the woo.
Picture you up on a stage in front of thousands of people, getting everybody to say, woo.
Yeah. And the woo is the window of opportunity. The woo is the window of opportunity, which when you think about it, is every precious moment.
Yeah.
You never know if the next person you'll meet today, if that person might become a lifelong friend, as you didn't know when you met your lifelong friend.
Yes.
You never know if the next time you talk to your son or your daughter, your spouse, your customer, your partner, the person you happen to be walking by at that time, if the next thing you say in that conversation may be so on target for what that person didn't see with their own eyes, but you saw it, and then you seize the woo because you said it, carpa woo, all right? And because of something you said to one other person, that person's life changed the trajectory and started getting better.
Yeah.
So the first reason why energy is so important is energy puts you in the position to seize more woos. Simple as that. Have you ever noticed that when you have energy, how much more alert you are to possibility? And most of all, when you have energy, adversity doesn't seem so adverse.
Right.
One thing that's powered through this time of the pandemic is that within every adversity is planted the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. In other words, the toughest things we make our way through, aren't they often the very things from which we grow the most?
Right.
When you have energy, you immediately shift and start to look for that seed of possibility. When you don't have energy, you get eaten alive by the adversity.
Yep.
So the first reason why energy is so crucial to control that controllable is energy allows you to seize more woos, and life is about seizing those woos.
Right.
The second reason, and even more profound, why is your energy so important? Here's why. To your children, for as long as you draw breath, no matter their age. To your customers, to your prospects, to your teammates, to whoever you care about having a positive impact on in your life, please hear this. Your energy is your example.
Yeah.
Your energy is your example. People won't remember that much of what you say, but they'll never forget your energy.
Absolutely.
So your energy is your ultimate influencer. So to control the controllable called energizing, engaging your team, two foundational ways that it's a choice. Number one, never forget this. Is most people miss this the same way we miss yield signs. And here's what it is. From this moment forward, and you're demonstrating it right now. I mean, you are the perfect demonstration because you're dealing with a migraine. And here's what it is. Your energy is created by the way that you move.
Right.
Period. In other words, anytime you've been your best, you're giving your best presentation, you've been your most understanding, most kind, most creative, most dynamic. You've moved your body in that moment completely differently than when you've not been your best.
Right.
Body line posture, facial expression, eye position. You've been smiling all the way through this, and that is carrying you through.
Right.
All right. Even though your body is telling you, go to this.
It sure is. My body's saying, like, go like this.
That's right. And yet that smile is actually enervating you and getting you through. So when you understand that your energy is created by the way that you move, you understand that whenever you start to lose that energy, you have a choice to simply sit up a little more, change your facial expression. Simple way to put it, if you want to move your business, if you want to move your career, if you want to move your health, you got to move yourself.
Yeah.
Add active movement to your life. Never sit at a computer more than 15 minutes without getting up, moving, changing your face, even when you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
So the first key to energy and having that control of that controllable is to start to take more charge of the way that you move.
Yeah.
Second key, and the more profound, the more unstoppable, the more foundational, is your energy is directly correlated to your level of purpose.
Yeah.
When you're full of purpose, you're full of energy. Have you ever noticed when you get to do what you love to do, it doesn't matter how much sleep you had, doesn't matter how you've been feeling.
Right.
When you do what you love to do, you're 5 years old. Let me at it.
Yeah.
But when you lose sight of your energy, lose sight of your purpose, you lose your energy.
Yeah.
Probably one of the great books of all time that I've read, and I'm sure you've read it, is Man's Search for Meaning. It's by Viktor Frankl. And it's his memoirs of his time living, surviving through the Holocaust, in a concentration camp in Auschwitz.
Yep.
And probably the most profound breakthrough that he opened up for all of those who read the book was that the people who survived the Holocaust were not necessarily those that were the youngest, the most fit.
Right.
They were those that had a purpose left undone.
Yes.
A child they felt no one else could take care of. A project they felt, work that they felt they must complete. That was the thread that allowed them to survive when others perished. Right. So in a very real sense, if you're not inspired, then you're expired.
Yeah.
And So purpose is the core, foundational, unstoppable, indomitable source of constant energy. And here's a simple way to tap into that every morning. Start your day with purpose and intention, and ask yourself every morning when you wake up one question: what am I deeply grateful about in my life? What am I deeply grateful about in my life? The word actually has a secret in it, especially if you're not big on spelling. What you're grateful about has within it the capacity, when focused upon, the power to make you grateful. What you're grateful about will zero you in on your priorities. Your priorities will always lead you in the direction of your purpose.
Right.
So if you think about energy on a 10-point scale, with 1 being comatose and 10, a child on Christmas morning, 10 when you're on top of the world, here is a $1 trillion question that can change your life. I know it changed mine. It's a life-changing, family-changing, health-changing, career-changing, you-changing question. So when you think about that 10-point energy scale as a context for complete human energy, where have you been living your life? Whoa, or I should say, woo, what a great question. And if it's anything that's less than 9, then understand that you can affect that by 2 choices: changing the way you move and focusing on purpose. And as that number rises, your life will rise with it.
Right.
You get above 9.0, you're easy to impress and hard to offend. And that is a magnificent recipe for living life fully.
Yeah. Wow. So many amazing pieces of wisdom and inspiration in there. That's awesome. One of the phrases that keeps coming to mind as you were sharing that is the idea of to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. And so, to really, I didn't come up with that. I heard it somewhere, and so I can't take credit, but I love that analogy, that idea of being purposeful with your energy, with your time, with your perspective, all of that, being very purposeful and intentional, and being the thermostat that's our energy, and also protecting it, both in terms of feeding the energy with positivity, like you said, by movement, by pursuing our passion and our purpose, and bringing those experiences into our life, but also preventing this bombardment of negative energy, being willing to protect our energy. And I have
a great one. Yeah, you just hit a nerve I have to really share, because
yeah, go ahead.
What is the biggest challenge to energy for many people? I've talked about energy in my programs, and we have fun. We do a woo clap where we go, yes, 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 woo, yes. And really, part of my work is to help people start to elevate their energy. But I've had people over the years say something like this, and I bet you too, in working with other people. They say, Brian, I have all kinds of energy, except when I get around him. I have this one person who sucks the energy out of me. They're going to suck it right out of me. They're my energy vampire.
Yep.
And I always say the same thing to those people. I never say it to be harsh or cruel, but I say it to set them free. And that is, if you think you have someone in your life who is your energy vampire, who is going to find what's wrong, who's going to put you down, who's going to show you all the reasons why you're not quite good enough. So if you have an energy vampire in your life, stop it.
Yep.
That's not their energy.
Yeah.
No one can take your energy from you without your permission.
Right.
You can give it up to anybody, but it is not theirs unless you give it to them. I know the guy who I thought was my energy vampire for a good part of my life was also my hero growing up. It was my dad. And today, my dad is one of my best friends in the world. I wanted my dad, when I was a little kid, to say just once, I love you, son. Give me a hug. Say, I'm proud of you. Right. But he lost his mom when he was 7 years old. And when that happened, my uncle told me he closed up. And he just couldn't do it. And for 30 years of my life, I was pursuing that all the time, thinking, without consciously thinking, he's my energy vampire. He's going to tell me what's not good about me.
Right.
And what changed was not him. What changed was if things are to change, I must change. Right. And what changed was one day I said, I'm not going to give up my energy anymore. I'm not doing this out of anger. I'm doing it out of joy.
Right.
And when I visited my dad for the first time, I brought my own energy. I did not try to be who I thought he wanted me to be. And in one day, everything changed. I realized how much I love my dad. I realized he had always told me he loved me in the only way he knew how.
Right.
He couldn't say it. He couldn't hug me, but he worked 2 jobs for 17 years. So we'd have enough growing up.
Right.
As I started to take my energy back, I found out not only did see all the years I growing up, I didn't think he even cared about what I was doing in school and sports, but I was actually doing it to try to win his favor. I found out after I got my energy back, he was telling all the other policemen, he was a policeman, right? But he didn't want me to have a fat head, so he never said it to me.
Right.
Today, my dad is one of my best friends because no longer did I create that energy vampire. He never was. It was my creation. So
Right.
for many people, if there's somebody in your life like that, stop giving them the power. It's not theirs.
Yeah, that's a fascinating perspective, and to think about that it's like we're expecting other people to feed our energy for us, and that's not a realistic or fair expectation. And so that's a great point. And one of the things I just wanted to highlight from what you were sharing earlier too is that this idea of the energy that we bring to the table, we bring to the room. Yeah, that can be one of our greatest assets. And you think about those people who just like you. I mean, you bring such energy, and it's infectious and it's exciting, and so we want to be those, and not that we all need to be truly gregarious, but we want to bring that positive energy, and whatever that looks like for us. And yeah, you feel that when you're around people who even if they're more subdued or quiet and introverted, you can still feel their energy. Is it a quiet positive energy? And that really can help with the culture of the team, the dynamic, and just people wanting to be around you and be in your space. And again, that's a choice that you make, the energy that you bring to the table, into the room.
You really, you're great. You're what I call a synergy sparker for me, because you keep popping these things into my mind. I love the fact that you brought up energy doesn't have to be flamboyant.
Right.
You need to be yourself. One of the people that I've studied a great deal in my life is Gandhi. Now, Gandhi was not a flamboyant person. He was not really a great speaker.
Right.
But he had what they call darshan. That's another name for presence, that
Yeah.
you felt his energy and it was unstoppable in his way.
Right.
So my way is different than your way. It's different than everyone else's in the way. But it's that context we said on that 10-point scale. He burned at about 77.6 on the 10-point scale in his own way.
Right.
So that's vital key. Another one that you popped in my mind was, here's a great simple way to begin to elevate your energy and recognize choice in your life. How many times a day, catch yourself, be alert for a while of how many times you say in a day, I have to do this. I have to go to sleep. I have to go shopping. I have to finish this paper. And where did that come from? We learned the words I have to when we were very little children. And there were two other words attached to that statement when we were little children. And there was a reason why we learned it, to protect. It was protection. It was to keep our little children safe. But the words that were attached to I have to, that were repeated over and over again, were or else. In other words, or else something bad will happen.
Right.
All right. Over time, the or else sort of recedes into the background, but it's still subconsciously in your mind. So every time you say I have to, what's attached to that is or else something bad will happen.
Right.
So how can you change your life? By changing your communication to yourself, your self-talk. Yeah. And instead of saying I have to do this, begin to use words like I choose to, like to, love to, can't wait to, enjoy to. All right. That is a totally different energy and a totally different choice. Yeah. I choose to rest. I don't have to rest. I choose to exercise. I don't have to exercise. And when you start to come from that place, that or else will disappear, because that's fear-based.
Right.
That's fear-based about a negative consequence. This is a moving towards the joy of life, and that energy will start to soar, and that will bring you up. So never again, I have to do this. No, I choose to do this, or I like to do this, or I love to do this.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I love that you used that word presence earlier. I just finished reading Amy Cuddy's book, Presence, and it's such a good read. And it's that idea of energy and presence. And so I love that you use that word. Such a great concept. And yeah, our words can help shape our energy, just like our energy can help shape our words. The vocabulary we use, our words can help shape our perspective and our energy. That's a great point. Yeah. So I'd love to shift gears just a little bit and talk about an activity that you do at your seminars. One of the things that you like to get people to do is have them break through. Literally, we talked about breakthrough leadership, but literally break through a block of wood. Talk about the inspiration for doing that and kind of the bigger meaning behind that. Let's just kind of talk about that for a little bit.
You bet. I'm called America's Breakthrough Coach because I've had getting close to 1 million people actually, as you say, break through wooden boards, karate style. And it's not just for the fun of it. To me, it is the greatest combination individual and team breakthrough experience you could ever have in an event like that. Because here's the simple truth: you don't know you can do it till you do it.
Right.
And so you're not really you are breaking through the board, really physically breaking the board. But what you're actually breaking through is the fear, whatever that fear is, that uncertainty of doing something you didn't know you could do. And so I use it as a couple things. First of all, it's a most powerful metaphor. I love it. I've done it more than 1,800 times. Can't wait to do the next one. It's a combination of both individual and team breakthrough. The individual part is related to the meaning. So when we break boards, and I've done this with as many as 4,000 people in an event. So when we break the boards, I have everyone write on their boards something specific that they're ready to break through in their life. Fear of failure, not quite good enough, procrastination, doubt. Could be something they're good at, but they plateaued. Could be something in their physical habits or health. Could be something in a relationship, but something that they get clear of is that it's time I move beyond this. It's time I break through. So on the front of the board, they write down that obstacle. You got to be clear about it. On the other side of the board is the magic, though, because on the other side of the board, I have them write down and envision, since what you focus on is what you create, what's waiting for me when I have broken through. What am I going to do, be, feel, create, have in my life? Because no more is this holding me back.
Right.
All right. So for many people, the individual element of this is the meaning. And I've had people beat cancer because they shifted their focus that way. I've had people forgive somebody they never thought they would forgive. And finally, they understand not forgiving someone is like drinking a giant glass of poison and expecting them to die. Yes. I've had people write the book they always wanted to write, lose over 150 pounds. So the individual part of the breakthrough is relating to that shift from always looking at the obstacle to shifting through the other side of the board. Right. Second part of it, if I had 4,000 people breaking boards, we would start with 400 circles of 10 people each. And in that circle of 10 people, if Kelly, you are breaking your board, the other 9 people around you are going, Kelly, Kelly, music going, mass hysteria. But some people have never been cheered for in their life. And to feel that unconditional support for many people is the breakthrough.
Yeah.
So that's the individual aspect. The team part is equally powerful because you will never see people cheer like they do in this environment. Right. There's something about it that almost is tribal. It brings out this passion that we want others to feel that breakthrough.
Yeah.
And then the last part of the team element, best way I can explain it, one of the 3 or 4 best days of my life was my daughter's wedding day. And it was for something I never could have really truly understood until I experienced it. And that was for 6 hours on her wedding night. I didn't think of myself once. All I could do was think of her. They tell me that I was laughing and crying at the same time. I don't remember it. All I remember was her.
Right.
And when those 9 people around Kelly are going, Kelly, 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 while they're doing that cheering, they get to feel the way I felt watching my daughter. They move from ego to ego. They are all about someone else. And that is one of the greatest, that is what a real team feeling is for that moment to recognize the best thing about being human is that we'll do more for others than we'll do for ourselves. Yes. And get into that in that moment. So, and the last element of this breakthrough, I want in my programs, I want people to end up feeling like they are the stars, not the speaker.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's their breakthrough. And when you walk out, after you've broken that board, you come out with a, maybe I can look at life. Instead of all the reasons you can't, maybe I could break through with my teenager. Maybe I could lose that weight. Maybe I could get in shape. Maybe I could regain my health. Maybe I could work with people that I didn't know I could work with, because you've just actually physically done something you didn't know you could do. And you've had to apply all three, and we've only touched on two of the controllables. Because breaking the board is about shaping the future. It's all about looking beyond the board, not at the obstacle.
Right.
Look at the obstacle, you get the obstacle.
Right.
Look beyond it, you get the breakthrough. You have to have extraordinary energy. At level 2, those boards, they're 1 inch thick. They might as well be a boulder.
Right.
But at level 10, they're not that tough. Either are the biggest challenge in your life. And then the third, well, we kind of saved it. We created around it. That third controllable, it really relates to that relationship part of the breakthrough experience. So not only do they do something they didn't know they could do, but by the time they finish that program, they have applied everything we've taught in a way that allows them to do something that opens their sense of possibility in their own lives.
Yeah. That's amazing that I love that you share that team aspect and the cheering as well, that it's, yes, there's the individual accomplishment, but it's so much more than that. And it is that coming together and again, that energy that, from that unified, I don't know, like vision, goal, like you're really cheering for that person and you want so much for them to succeed. And just how powerful that is. I never would have really thought about that component of it. So I'm so glad that you described that. And I can just almost feel that sitting here, hearing you describe it. I can just feel how amazing of an experience that would be.
Let me give you a real quick story about how far that goes. When I did my largest board breaking, the 4,000 people, it was in Atlanta. So we have 400 circles. I've trained 400 people to help me hold boards, and I'm holding boards for a group up on the stage, which is a very high stage because you got to be really high for 4,000 people.
Yeah.
But I also tell everyone that if anybody does not break their board after 3 tries out in your circle, that you're to take a break, to watch, to cheer, to support your circle. And then as each circle finishes, they are to move to the stage. So picture at the end, 4,000 people around a stage, and the last people to come up, and because I tell them, if you choose to not give up, if you want to still break through, even though you didn't after the 3 tries, then you can come up on stage and I'll hold the board for you. Well, at this group of 4,000 people, the last person came up on stage. She did not want to give up. She had not broken it after 3 tries, was a 95-year-old, 4'10" woman.
Oh my goodness.
She came up on stage. Her granddaughter had to actually come up on stage with her and hold her from behind by the waist so she wouldn't teeter over.
Oh my goodness.
When she broke that board, the roar from those 4,000 people was so loud in Atlanta, you could hear it in Los Angeles.
I believe it.
And I will guarantee you that as much as everyone remembers their own breakthrough, and I've had people write me 25, 28 years after they broke their board of how that story that they wrote about is now true.
Right.
But I will guarantee you every one of those 4,000 people remember that little 4'10" woman breaking her board, 95 years old, because they found out we are one. When she broke through, they all broke through.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure for people there, that moment was probably just almost, if not just as special as their own, breaking of the board. So that's what an amazing story. That's great. So in the time we have left, I'd love to chat a little bit about both the concept of gratitude, because we're both big believers in the power of gratitude. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit about that. And I'd love for you also to talk about in the ROI of kindness, which is a similar theme, but this idea of the chief kindness officer, because I love that concept so much. So can you talk a little bit about those two things? Yeah.
Sure. And it's great because it really brings us to the third controllable. Remember, the first controllable is to shape your future. We talked about it. Second is to energize and engage your team and yourself. The third is to build people, build teams, and build relationships. Every business that everyone who watches your show is in is a people business.
Right.
It's how you affect other people. It's what you learn and how you grow. And so two of the most powerful and profound ways to affect people, to build people, teams, and relationships, start with gratitude and kindness.
Yeah.
Gratitude, all emotions have actually been measured in terms of frequency. We're electrical beings, and our emotions carry with them a frequency. The highest frequency emotion is gratitude. So we've all heard the term in an attitude of gratitude, but what we don't know is that when we're in an attitude of gratitude, negative emotion cannot compete because it's overpowered by a much higher frequency.
Right.
So I like to have fun with stuff, and I talk about the way to really build people through gratitude is to be what I call a world-class buddy thinker. All right, a world-class buddy thinker. Because here's a great question to ask yourself honestly. Who are the people in our lives who we tend to forget to thank the most? I've asked that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in my events, and people go, oh my gosh, it's the people I love the most.
Right.
It's my closest friends, my closest family, my closest teammates. And then what do? What happens? Well, we take them for granted. It's like, I told you in 2015, I love you. What do you want? Mush? All right. So big question to ask then is, does that work? And the answer is that does not work. In fact, probably the most important words I've ever written, they're in this book, they're in some of my other books, says simply this. It says, the love we fail to share is the only pain we live with. The love we fail to share is the only pain we live with. And until you get this understanding of world-class buddy thinker, you're setting yourself up for the love you fail to share to be the only pain you leave with. And that's too late. But you can change it now through a choice.
Right.
So here's a really fun and simple way to remember how to become a world-class buddy thinker. And that is simply to remember, because that's about recognition, acknowledgement, appreciation, and kindness. Remember and just remember the television network, ESPN. All right. Whether you like sports or you don't care at all, you'll love ESPN. How do you become a world-class deliverer of recognition, acknowledgement, appreciation, world-class buddy thinker? Start with the E. Deliver recognition, acknowledgement, and kindness with effort and energy. In other words, higher on the 10-point scale. How many times do we thank people by going, hey, thanks a lot, appreciate it? That doesn't mean anything. Right. But when you say, Kelly, thank you for having me on your show. Thank you for being so incredible to get through a migraine and not even show it. All I did was I enhanced my level on that 10-point scale in the authentic way that I raised my energy. Yes. So the E is thank people with effort and energy. Start to put energy into it. But more important, thank people for their effort and energy and not just the results.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you're thanking people for what they control, their effort, their energy, and their attitude. And as you thank people, not so much for the result, but always appreciate that, but for what they put in to get to the result, they'll produce more results.
Yeah, that just jumped. Sorry, like I hate to cut you off, but I'm thinking about Carol Dweck's growth mindset. And she talks so much about that, that idea of being for yourself, appreciating the effort you put in, but then also for other people, appreciating that effort. And because then you're going to continue to want to put forth that effort.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I just, sorry to cut you off, but
it's perfect. That's exactly what it's about. And the S in ESPN is to occasionally use the power of surprise. Surprise is the super glue of impact. Yeah. So a great way to do that these days, because everything is technological. Everything is, via email or text or social media. Occasionally write a handwritten card and send it to somebody. I did this to my children all the years they were growing up, so I would practice being a world-class buddy thinker. And on those days, I would step back, and instead of focusing on the stuff we do in the heat of the moment with our family, why don't you clean that room? Fungus is growing in there. Why don't you get ready sooner? Instead, I'd write about when they were courageous, when they were kind, when they were thoughtful. And as my youngest daughter, Jenna, went off to college, we're cleaning up her room. I open her desk drawer. There's every one of those surprises, those letters. And my daughter went through a terrible tragedy in her life after she graduated college, in that the man that she was very much in love with died of a drug overdose. And today she shines brighter than ever. Yeah. It took time. It took hard work and counseling. But it also was, I know that those little surprises that really caught her being her best helped her reshape her heart and our family. Yeah. So we use the power of surprise. Stop a meeting, and acknowledge somebody who had no idea they were doing anything extraordinary. They were just being who they are.
Right.
So S is the power of surprise. P is what you talked about before, and it's the most important thing I teach. It is the secret behind the secrets. It is the ultimate way to build people, teams, and relationships, and it is the only way to genuinely deliver trust and build trust, and that is to be fully present. P stands for being fully present. When we are fully present, we say to that person, you are important.
Yeah.
You matter. You count. And whenever we're not present, we speak louder.
Yep.
The greatest gift of my life was given to me by my two daughters, Kelsey and Jenna, when they were 8 and 3. And one night, after doing this day after day after day, when I could have been tucking them in at night, but instead I was on the phone, missing that woo. At 8 and 3 years old, these geniuses, these brilliant young little girls walked in my office. And before I could get to the phone, they looked at me and they said, Daddy, we just want to ask you before we go to sleep tonight, do you love your phone more than you love us?
Oh my goodness. Oh.
I felt the blade going deep.
Yeah.
You know, Emerson said, what you do scream so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying.
Yeah. Yep.
That night, my children changed my life, and my goal in life became to be fully present in every precious woo.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way I could truly communicate to them authentically that they're important, because you can't fake it.
No.
How many of you know when you're with somebody if they're fully present or not?
Yep, exactly.
You can tell instantly. So the P in ESPN, we could spend an entire show on it, is the power of being fully present, because that's the only way we convey to people they're important. It's the only way we can foundationally build trust.
Right.
And the N is now. I believe the greatest gift we're given every day comes in the metaphor or the example of a road in front of us. And every day, many times on that road, we have a Y that shows up. One side says as soon as, the other says now. And truthfully, as soon as looks easier. It's well lit. It's simple. It's clear. It's been repaved. Now as potholes, it lights out. It's curvy. It's twisty. But if you continually choose the road called as soon as, well, as soon as I get through my email, then I'll be there for you. I'll be present then. As soon as I, finish all these bills, then I'll take a few minutes to exercise.
Yep.
The road called as soon as has one destination. It's called perpetual procrastination.
Yeah.
It leads, as soon as leads to never.
Yes.
Now is the time. So if there's people in your life who you've been looking at like an old yellow yield sign, you can change it now. If you've been living at level 5, you can change it now. If you haven't been fully present, you can change it now. So ESPN is the real powerful way to deliver kindness, right? And to really, really build people, teams, and relationships. And then you bring to the idea of the CKO. That in the book, my newest book called The ROI of Kindness, I recognize that we may not always be the CEO of our company. We are the CEO of our own lives.
Right.
But you can go into the corner suite called the CKO, Chief Kindness Officer. And the book really points out that kindness not only is nice, but kindness is a key to transforming the level of success, of the bottom line, of customer service. Kindness works in business. And it starts with an individual saying, I'm going to be a CKO, and I'm going to really be, from this point forward, I'm going to be that example of kindness. And the book goes into what I call the 7 habits of highly effective CKOs.
Yeah, I love that so much. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a wealth of research out there that talks about the benefits of, being kind and being thoughtful and being grateful and expressing gratitude. And, Adam Grant talks about that a lot in Give and Take, that givers, when we look at success, the givers are ultimately more successful than takers or matchers. And there's real power in that. And yeah, I think it's just the right thing to do as a human being. I agree. Like you said, it's the right thing to do. But then it also puts us in a position to be even more successful. And that's great. I love it so much. Well, Brian, when I've been glancing over, I'm looking at some of the comments that are coming in from people, and I have to look at my monitor because I can't see the small text on my other screen.
One this way, one this way. At least you don't want. That's what happens with the migraine. One goes that way, one goes this way.
Yeah, well, I can barely see this one. I definitely can't see that one. But people are just saying, that they're loving what you're sharing. Well said. They love your energy. Just lots of great feedback and comments from everyone.
Well,
So
thank you all.
thank you so much. I will be sure to include links to your website and books in the video description. But I always like to ask, is there anywhere else that you'd encourage people to go to, to connect with you and find you?
Not really. It's my website, brianbiro.com. That's where people can come to find out about my speaking. I help people to develop their speaking. But most of all, I love to be out there doing my speaking, and it's got my little store with my books on it too. So that's where you find the ROI of kindness.
Perfect. Yeah, and I definitely encourage people to check out the books and to check out the ROI of kindness, because it's a great read. So
Thank you.
thank you so much, Brian. This was truly a pleasure. And you made me forget all about the migraine because yeah.
Well, Kelly, you are a absolute delight. I loved our first connection, just one-on-one, and the chance to, I know the people who follow you get such insights, such authenticity. Many of the things we talked about today, in fact, I can't think of one that isn't. You represent, you exemplify.
Thank
You
you so
truly
much.
are a breakthrough leader and making a difference. So it's been a joy, a pleasure, and an honor.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's wonderful. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for your comments. And we will see you next time.